Hi, it's CJ Miller. I'm in Shreveport, Louisiana, across the Red River from beautiful Bossier City, Louisiana. I've been doing some work on the canvas this evening, and what can I say? Sometimes when I really get to tweaking on this thing, I do. Sometimes I'll do a little bit and then I'll set it back and I'll have to wait for a few days. And then sometimes I'll get to looking at it and it's like, I feel like cool. So this is great. This is great. I started looking at the work that I'd done here earlier, and I thought I could maybe carry that back a little bit. And even with carrying some of the greenery and some of the grassiness and everything like that, can let it kind of play on the fact that there's a river there. So I don't know. I can let this be sort of. I'll let this sit right now until I see what's going on. But I thought it would be interesting to see sort of a recursion in shape between the foreground, the far back cityscape, and then some of the greenery up here. I like to play with that. What happens in nature is that if you're like just looking at empty nature far off, the shapes of the ground, they look like the shapes in the sky. And there's a definite recursion. Sky looks like ocean, um, mountain, uh, looks like flat ground from far off in the distance. Mountain looks like dune or foothill. You know what I mean? So because what happens, I don't know. I can't account for that, but it doesn't really matter. Wherever I am, whenever I'm traveling, the farther off I look, things just seem to reflect each other, you know. And I like exploring that uh, in work that I do sometimes. Um, so I got here in this sort of median area and kind of worked with it. And I don't mind that it's somewhat monochromatic, balancing and everything. From a distance, it does not look like much. It really doesn't. This is kind of the opposite. Like usually when you get really close on a piece of work, if you stare at each individual um, brushstroke, you break the magic of what's going on, and it's good to look at things from a step back. So this would be kind of a different approach on that, because if you really want to get onto it and see, um, you want to be just a couple of feet away, and from different perspectives, you will see various aspects of the work come into clarity, you know. Whereas looking at it this close, the cityscape in the back looks very undefined, and it looks a little bit more crisper from a distance. We lose perspective. We lose that perspective in some of the greenery. So that's kind of cool. I like that aspect of a painting when I'm working, that from each perspective, like if you look at something from over this corner and you're looking up, or from wherever, that depending upon perspective, you'll see different aspects with a little bit more clarity in a canvas. And that helps create the illusion of perspective also, you know. Uh, it's something that I kind of stumbled across just experimenting and accidentally some time ago, you know, that, oh, well, by treating different areas of the painting as their own individual works and giving it their own, uh, approaching different, and usually with landscaping, looking at this particular bit of landscape versus this particular, treat each bit of it as its own individual little painting, and you can, while still keeping the theme, you can give some difference in the topography, some various things to look at, and you can create different points that will be more obvious depending upon various types of perspective. You know, playing with more than one light source, especially in landscape, uh, because if you have light coming through uh, brushes and flowers and trees and everything like that, light's going to break up and it's going to play differently. So you don't just have like one bulb or one pen light, you know. And in nature, you don't have. There's one sun, but the way that it shines through the clouds, it changes, and the way it peeks through the treetops, or the way that it would come around, even in this case, buildings and things like that. Uh, Whatever, the way it plays along, you know, roads and everything. Yeah, it's you know, it's going to give perspective. It's going to give depth. It's going to give texture. You know, that's pretty close to the world that we live in. Now, this looks wonderful, but it's still very wet paint. So, you know, even this part down here that I started on is wet. So you don't necessarily even know that there's a path going through here right now, unless you get up on it, that you can kind of sort of see where the brushes are kind of leading to say, hey, there might be something, you know. But yeah, that's kind of cool. I just, you know, if someone does come over and check this out, I want them to have something to study with their eye, you know, if they really get interested in technique. See, that's I do. Whenever I look at work that I go to someone's house and someone's painted, or they have a painting that someone's crafted by hand, it's not like a print, but I really can look at the brush strokes and everything. I love to study their technique because it's such an individual process. Even if you go to get some formal training, the way you apply your formal teachings, very much, it's an individual thing. And that's kind of cool. So here again, I love you guys. Love and light, peace, and good night. And perhaps this might be the last bit of this painting that I do tonight for a few days. Or maybe there will be more. I don't know. But anyway, love and light. Good night.